Welcome to the Shreveport Connection with Tommy. This video is on your TNA Impact news and spoilers, and also from the results from this past Thursday. And Brooke Hogan has been recently released by TNA. She was a storyline authority figure for the Knockouts division. Brooke played her role as an on-air character better than anybody expected that she would. However, the storyline with Bully Ray has run its course, and TNA is wise to save whatever money they were paying her for in favor of spending it on in-ring talent who go on the road. The early word is that the split between Brooke and TNA was said to be amicable. And that's her real engagement to the Dallas Cowboy lineman a couple weeks ago. The following matches were taped in Thursday in Norfolk, Virginia for next week's spoilers. Impact Wrestling television show. Tag Team Champions James Storm and Gunner versus Bobby Roode and Kazarian. X-Division Champion Manic versus Sanjay Dutt. Hernandez versus Jay Bradley versus Joseph Park versus Christopher Daniels in a street fight for 20 points for the Battle for Glory series. And Gail Kim versus ODB, Aces and Eights versus Main Event Mafia in a 10-man tag with the person losing the match for his team will be fired from TNA. That reminds me of the Feast or Fired briefcase ladder match. It was announced on Impact that Main Event Mafia will be allowed to find a replacement for Kurt Angle, who recently admitted himself into rehab. TNA star Robbie E spoke with WhatCulture.com about several topics, and you can read the full interview at this website right here. I'm going to post it for about 10 seconds. And among the highlights is break in TNA. He talks about having a tryout with them through Terry Taylor, and at the time that they were looking for a Jersey Shore show, it was big. I'm from there, and you're sitting here looking at me. So they just kind of put two and two together, and that's what they got. Okay, let's see if he can get it done in the ring. And unfortunately enough for me, it clicked. They offered me a contract to the day of my tryout match. Being in the wrestler, I really wasn't in it, but here's a little secret. I was glad to be in it. My name was listed and everything, but I actually ended up getting an overseas tour. So, like a few days before, I was unable to make it for the filming, but somehow my name still ended up in the credits. So I kind of got the best of both worlds. Best moments in his X-Division and television title runs, honestly, the highlights were, of course, the days that I won them. Beating Jay Lethal for the X-Division title at Turning Point, and then 1 year later, beating Eric Young for the TV title. But through my TV title run, I had great runs with RVD and Devon. I got some wins, which I haven't gotten in a while. Necro Butcher, a.k.a. Dylan Summers, suffered a leg injury while working at the Dugalo Championship Wrestling event last weekend. His wife, Virginia, started a fundraising account to help with medical costs. Dylan had the crappiest insurance known to man, and we're looking at physical therapy, another doctor's visit, on the top of the ambulance ride to transfer to two hospitals out of state, so insurance won't cover it, and the time he is going to have to take off for work, she wrote. So as much as I hate to admit it, yes, monetary help will be greatly appreciated. You can view the fundraising page and make a donation at this link that I will give for about 10 seconds. So getforward.com, /fundraiser /SFW2 /Dylan-Summers-medical /expenses. Spokesperson Virginia noted that Dylan would give her an earful for creating the page because he doesn't like handouts. We all need a little help sometimes, and fans are already raised roughly about $1,200 of the $2,500 she is attempting to raise. Here's wishing them the best with this. Maybe I can get a few of y'all fans to pitch in there. Maybe $1 or $2. Anything to help. Breaking news: Paul Orndorf III and Brooke Orndorf, the daughter of Actually, it's Paul Orndorf Jr., okay, the son and granddaughter of the Hall of Famer, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorf Jr., has been arrested on various charges stemming from an altercation with a man who was dropping Brooke Orndorf off at her home. Brooke Orndorf had been charged with robbery and battery, while Paul Orndorf III had been charged with party to the crime of robbery, party to the crime of battery, and 2 counts of financial identity fraud. Another woman who lives at the Orndorf home has had a warrant issued for the theft by taking, and you can read the local news report at this website. I'll post it up for like 10 seconds. Wow, this is a crazy story. The article states that both Orndorfs are in custody, and the police are looking for the other woman. Paul Jr. beat cancer in 2011. I'm not aware of his current health status, but you have to believe this won't help it in the least. Other news, HBO's Real Sports issued the following press release to ProWrestling.net to tout the airing of a segment involving DDP, Scott Hall, and Jake the Snake Roberts. Now in its 19th season, Real Sports with Brian Goebel, TV's most honored sports journalism series, and the only sports program recognized with a prestigious 2012 George Foster Peabody Award, presents more enterprising features and reporting when its 197th edition, available in HDTV, debuts at a special time Tuesday, August the 20th, at 9 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, at 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Central Time, exclusively on HBO. Other HBO play dates, August 20th, 3:10 a.m., the 22nd at 8 a.m., and 5:15 p.m. on the 25th, 9 a.m., 28th at 1 p.m. and 10 p.m., and September 3rd at 7 p.m. and 2:55 a.m. And on the 7th, 10:30 and 12:30 a.m., HBO 2 play dates, August 21st at 2:20, 10 p.m., 2:20 p.m. and 10 p.m. and 9 a.m. on the 26th, and on the 31st, 2:30 p.m. September 1st at 9:05 a.m. September 6th, 4:45 p.m. and on the 11th at 10 a.m. and 11:55 p.m. HBO On Demand availability August 26th through September 16th. The show will also be available on HBO Go. Segments include DDP. Few athletes have a tougher life after sports than professional wrestlers. The fast lifestyle that accompanies year-round entertaining across the country can take its toll on bodies and minds, resulting in a disappropriate amount of former wrestlers becoming drug-dependent and struggling with mental health issues. In stark contrast to the sport's high-flying, muscle-bound theatrics, yoga is now helping rehabilitate some stars of yesteryear. Diamond Dallas Page, famous for success in the WCW and the WWF, created DDP Yoga after finding that yoga helped ease not only his physical ailments but also his depression, and has striving to help others from his era, most notably Scott Razor Ramon, Hall, and Jake the Snake Roberts. Correspondent of Frank Depper, the producer Maggie Burbank, for passing on the news. Real Sports was the sole sports program recognized by the University of Georgia's Grady College of Journalism and Mass Communication with a 2012 George F. Peabody Award for Broadcast Excellence. In addition, it is the only sports program ever honored with a DuPont Award, first in 2005 and again in 2012. At the 34th Annual Sports Emmy Awards on May 7th, Real Sports captured 2 trophies for Outstanding Edited Sports Series and for Outstanding Long Feature for August 2012 profile of former New Orleans Saints player Steve Gleason. Real Sports has won the Sports Emmy for Outstanding Sports Journalism 15 times and received 25 Sports Emmy Awards overall. And you can follow them at updates on HBO.com/Real Sports and Facebook.com Real Sports. Or join the conversation on Twitter using Hashtag Real Sports. Executive producer of Real Sports with Brian Gumble is Rick Bernstein. Joe Persky is senior producer. PWX Wrestling presents a double shot this weekend live in demand nights 1 and 2 in Charlotte and Concord, North Carolina. Night 1 at Tremont Music Hall in Charlotte, North Carolina is headlined by Cedric Alexander versus Johnny Gargano. Night 2 is the promotion's first TV taping at the Cabarrus Arena in Concord, North Carolina. Former WWE Diva, I believe, is also scheduled to appear, along with Rich Swann, Mia Yim, Los Medejos, Caleb Conley, and more. You can get full details at PWXProWrestling.com. Following matches were advertised for the 2 a.m. Central airing time of the AWA Wrestling Show on ESPN Classic. From, I believe, the past Monday night, Midnight Rockers, Hernandez versus Barbarian, Kurt Hennig versus Glover, Living Legend Larry Zbyszko versus Scott Ledoux. And at 3 a.m. show on the same night, Midnight Rockers versus Stone and Leone, Jake Milliman versus Ali Khan, Earthquake Ferris versus Colonel De Beers, Kurt Hennig and Scott Hall, former members of the NWO, Black and White. Actually, the actual regular NWO, I believe. Versus Doug Summers and Buddy Rose. World Tag Team titles were on the line. And the 4 a.m. block showed Bold Eagle versus Barbarian, West versus Larry Zbyszko, Ali Khan versus Boris Zukov, Ali Khan and Boris Zukov versus Max Brothers, Midnight Rockers versus Doug Summers and Buddy Rose again. Following matches were advertised for the 817 Wrestling Cares Association event in Los Angeles, California at the Sheraton Gateway LAX. Did not get the results for that, and nothing has been posted online. And the event had Mike Hardy with Ruby Sky versus Sean DeVary with the returning to wrestling Ryan Shamrock. Adam Pearce versus Willie Mack in a tournament match. Drake Younger versus Johnny Gargano in a tournament match. Adam Cole versus Jammin' Olivencia in a tournament match. Steve Anthony versus Drew Gulak in a tournament match. B-Boy versus Kyle Matthews in a tournament match. Pepper Parks versus Timothy Thatcher in a tournament match. B.J. Whitmer, who recently was injured, probably will be taken out of that match, versus Papadon in a tournament match and is now to be determined. Antonio Thomas versus Cassidy Riley in a tournament match. Katrina Lay versus Candice LeRae in a Beat the Champ series match. Again, Whitmer versus Papadon match will not be expected to take place due to Whitmer's neck injury. Papadon will face a replacement. Former diva Candice Michelle will also appear as a special guest host for the event. For more details on that show, plus interviews and highlights, you can go to WrestlingCares.com. Here's the results for Big Time Wrestling, also having a few other stars in it. One of the stars I just read is from Gaithersburg, Maryland at the Montgomery County Agricultural Fair. Reported by Matthew Mullally. Hope I pronounced his name right. The show started a half hour late due to rainstorm. The ring was set up outside in the dirt of the grandstand. It's an agricultural fair. The ringside area turned into a mud pit, and despite a tarp on the mat still got wet. The ring and fair crew did an outstanding job of regrading the mud and dirt around the ring to dry it out. They dried the mat as best as they could, and the show went on. There was a wet crowd of approximately 350 people. Match number 1, Slick Wagner Brown defeated Danny Miles. Miles had a homosexual gimmick and worked hard the whole match. Entertaining comedy match with good wrestling. Mickie James defeated Ruby Sky in match number 2. They couldn't really get anything going, and the crowd wasn't into it. She tried, but Ruby Sky just isn't a pro wrestler. According to the reporter. Match number 3, Flex Armstrong defeated Benny Chucks. What? I thought that was just a wrestling doll. You know, the one to stretch? To regain the BTW title. Match number 4, Hacksaw Jim Duggan and the Patriot defeated the Russian Hammer. No surprise, Duggan and the Patriot defeated the Hammers. Amidst constant cheers of USA, the Hammers might be the worst jobbers since the Mulkeys. You know you're in trouble if the Patriot plays Ricky Morton and Jim Duggan gets the hot tag. The match moved about 3/4 speed, but Duggan made sure everyone enjoyed themselves and seemed to be having a genuine good time himself. Carlito defeated Shane Douglas. That was a surprise. Douglas paid the perfect heel and boasted about Pittsburgh, the Steelers, the Pirates, Penguins, Bruno Sammartino, and the living legend Larry Zbyszko, and ran down the Ravens and the Redskins. Got pretty good heat. Carlito hit the backstabber in the match, and that was an incredibly short match. And your main event was Matt Hardy defeating Chris Masterpiece Masters. Hardy came out with a good pop and tease t-shirts, tossed into the audience, and Masters stole the shirt to get the heat. A typical but good match. Hardy hits the twist of fate to send the crowd home happy. TNA has announced that the September 12th edition of Impact Wrestling will carry the No Surrender theme. Another pay-per-view. 3 shows. In other words, the show will take place in St. Louis, Missouri at the Chaffetz Arena. TNA is advertising Bully Ray, Hulk Hogan, Sting, Jeff Hardy for the show. The show will also feature the Final 4 of the Battle for Glory series. The top 4 wrestlers in the standings will compete in a mini tournament to determine the winner, who will challenge for the TNA title at Battle for Glory pay-per-view in October. And now, for your wrestling results from this past week. From Norfolk, Virginia, the recap review covered the World Championship picture. The show opened with introductions for the ladder match. First matchup, Austin Aries versus AJ Styles versus Jeff Hardy versus Kazarian in a ladder match for 20 points in the BFG series. Kazarian immediately went for the ladder on the ramp. Aries jumped over the top rope and hit him with a forearm. Everyone ended up diving on each other into the first commercial break. Back from the commercial break, one ladder stands in the ring, and Kazarian brought a second one in and set it beside the first. All 4 men climbed on a side. Aries hit the powerbomb on Hardy from the top of the ladder. Holy shit! As Kaz knocks Styles down. Well, Styles knocked the ladder out from underneath Kaz, and Styles sets up a ladder in the corner, and Aries hits a drop kick on him into the ladder. Aries then climbs the ladder, but Kaz stops him. Aries kicked him away, and Styles grabbed Aries in a powerbomb lift, only to turn it into a Clash setup. Before he could hit it, Kazarian ran over and hit a mic check type move on Styles at the same time. Later, Hardy and Styles were on the ladder, and Aries missile drop kicked the ladder. Aries and Styles climbed the ladder next, and Hardy pushed it over, so Aries landed on the ladder in the corner. Dear God, what happens next? Christopher Daniels and Bobby Roode walked out and watched the match on stage. Hardy started to climb the ladder as Daniels distracted the ref as Roode came running in and pulled Hardy off. Hardy hit a kick on Roode and started to climb again. Kaz took Daniels' apple tinny and threw it in Hardy's eyes. Hardy sold it like he had been shot. Kaz knocked him off on the apron and grabbed it, and climbed up the ladder and grabbed the contract for the win, and got 20 points. Then they announced the announce team hyped the main event. Mafia was walking backstage. Let's go to a commercial break. Completely out of control ladder match. They had the crowd hot as hell. I loved every second of it, except for the Aries bump on the ladder. That's how you tear up ankles, knees, and hips. It was a total unnecessary spot, but I'll say worse. I don't know how many people were watching, but I don't think anybody turned the channel during the match, and that may have actually gained viewers during that segment. Well done. Backstage, IQG asked Chris Sabin how you prepare yourself for a cage match with Bully Ray. Sabin said he remembered when Ray and Devon put a guy through a flaming table with thumbtack. He said he wasn't taking him lightly, but Ray better not take him lightly, and so nobody thought he could beat Ray, but he beat him twice, and he would beat him again. In the ring, Dixie Carter joined the main event Mafia in the ring. She announced that Kurt Angle has entered into rehab and he was still there and his return date was unknown. She said Angle had her support and the support of the men in the ring. She said she wanted all the fan support to support him as well as the fans cheered. Very classy way to handle it, and I'm happy they told the truth. Kudos to Dixie and the company for writing this into the script. Aces and Eights music hit, and they got crazy heat. They climbed the ring, and Anderson cut the promo saying they only had 1 week to find a replacement. He went through the people who would say that for each man in MEM, he was the one pin. He said all of those were potential futures. Magnus takes the mic and said Anderson needs to worry about his immediate future because that was Magnus punching him in the mouth. He got the crowd chanting, "You suck" at Anderson, and said the Norfolk was Mafia country, so if they couldn't find someone in the back to join them, they could find someone in the crowd, and that meant someone from Aces and Eights was getting a pink slip. Anderson gave him the "oh yeah" treatment, and then said he needed to take a head count. He counted both sides and then punched Magnus. They beat down the main event Mafia and left him lying backstage. The knockouts were shown heading toward the ring, and Tito Ortiz was shown arriving as they go to commercial. Magnus' promo was mediocre at best, but the segment as a whole was well done and put good heat on their match for next week. Again, telling the truth about Angle was the absolute right call. I didn't think they would do it, but I'm very happy they did. This has been a very good episode of Impact so far. Mickie James and Gail Kim were in the ring. ODB started her entrance and Mickie ran out. ODB shoved her down and climbed in the ring to start the match. So we get match number 2, Mickie James versus Gail Kim versus ODB in a triple threat hardcore match. ODB beat down both women and first started to do her gimmick where she rubbed a woman into her crotch in the corner, but Mickie pulled her off. Mickie grabbed a chair and she and Kim fought over it. Kim ended up in a chair, but ODB knocked her down, so Mickie hit ODB with a chair. Both women covered ODB, but she kicked out. Mickie tried to roll up Kim and then knocked her to the floor. ODB tackled Mickie again. Kim dragged ODB from the ring and slammed her on the floor. Mickie ran over and kicked Kim to knock her down. Mickie grabbed a kendo stick and beat the hell out of ODB. She tried to choke her in the corner, but ODB flipped her over and took the stick. She hits Mickie and returning Kim for her efforts and taking her bra off and choking both women. Mickie finally stopped ODB, but she and Kim argued. ODB spit her flask in the face of Mickie. She put the chair in the ring and hit ODB. Bam on Kim on the chair for the win. ODB defeated Gail Kim and Mickie James in a triple threat in 6 minutes 45 seconds. Backstage segment, Sting said he was happy for Angle, but it left them vulnerable. He said that they had to find a fit. Joe told him to be careful because their careers were on the line. Sting said he had no choice. He said he knew everyone hated him, but he was going to talk to Austin Aries because they need him. Commercial break. Pretty good knockout match. I've never been a big fan of hardcore matches for women, but they used the stipulation well and didn't overdo it. Backstage segment again, Sting tried to talk to Aries into joining them based on their mutual hate of the Aces and Eights, and Bully Ray. Aries tried to blow him off, and Sting said that they didn't need to be friends to make it work, but they needed him. Aries repeated the line while looking at the floor. A video recap of how Kaz won the ladder match backstage. IQG asked Rude if he has a plan on what was coming together. Rude said timing was everything. He said joining with Kaz and Daniels was brilliant. He said he had 20 points on the line tonight, and when he won them, he would slingshot into second place. Back in the main event Mafia locker room, Rampage asked the other two men about Aries and said that they didn't trust him. Sting walked in and said Aries said no. Rampage said he had to take care of someone in the ring and headed out with Joe on his heels. As I think Sting told Joe to follow him out there, make sure he doesn't mess up, be protected. During the commercial break, Joe and Rampage were shown walking backstage, and Rampage said, "We all know who we was going to call out." And that was my guess. And that was going to be Tito Ortiz. Gee, who do y'all think it would be? As the cable was blacking out on my DVR since I had to work that night. Rampage was in the ring with Joe and called out Tito Ortiz, just like my prediction. Ortiz came to the ring and Rampage said he knew that they had a fight in November and he knew that Tito was going to try and ground and pound him and he was going to try to knock Tito out. He said that they could battle then, but they were friends and he wanted Tito to join them against Aces and Eights. Swerve! I was predicting all the time since he came out. I thought he was going to challenge him to a fight just then and there, but it was just to join him. Bad mistake. Because here comes the swerve. Well, Tito asked him if he was serious. Rampage said that they had a chance to make history and tried to talk Tito up to it. Tito said he came to TNA and Bellator to make history and looked like he was going to accept. Before he could, Billy Ray's music cut him off, and then they walked on the ramp. Ray said if he didn't have to win his title back tonight, he would slap the piss out of both men. And the cable cracked up again on the DVR because they record all the mess-ups. And then Anderson was making his entrance as it came back on clearly. Sorry, folks, the cable, what? It actually is satellite. And so it's been glitchy all the way through. Rude started to make his ring entrance. Magnus ran out and attacked him to start off. Match number 3, Samoa Joe versus Magnus versus Anderson versus Bobby Roode. The table's back for 20 points on the Battle for North Series. A table was already set up in the corner quickly, and Roode tried to whip Magnus into it. But Joe tackled Magnus to save him. Anderson ran in and attacked Joe and lifted him on the shoulder. But Magnus kicked Anderson to knock him down. All 4 men ended up in the ring, and the Mafia took out both heels. Both men tried to put a heel through the table, but the heels fought back and everyone fell to the floor. Joe hits Roode in the nuts with a bell hammer a couple of times. Anderson and Magnus teased, putting each other through the table on the floor from the ramp, but they ended up on the other side of the ring. Jay came over and knocked Anderson into a chair on the floor and hits his running kick. In the ring, Magnus tries to put Roode through the table, but Roode escaped and hit Spinebuster as Anderson and Joe fought their way back into the ring. The Hills beat up the Minute Mafia into the corners and made a weird alliance from shoving each other. They tried to whip the babyfaces together, but Magnus reversed it, and Joe hit the clothesline on Roode and then dove on him on the floor. Anderson hit the mic check in the ring. Joe ran in and tried to hit a muscle buster through the table on Anderson. But Roode moved the table and dumped Joe to the floor as Anderson rolled to the floor himself. Roode puts Magnus on the table, climbed to the top. Joe recovered and stopped Roode. Kazarian ran out and grabbed Joe's leg. He kept Joe distracted as Daniels threw the apple toonie in Magnus' face. And Magnus sold it like Hardy, and Roode powerbombed him through the table for the win and got 20 points for Robbie E. And the match only took 10 minutes, 19 seconds. Not as good as the other ladder match, but still had a fun match. I don't mind the endings much except for that Appletini virtually knocking guys out. I understand making them blind for a moment, but both Hardy and Magnus just stopped moving after they were hit with the liquid, and that makes no sense. Still, it was pretty obvious that they were going to give Roode and company a big night tonight. As the ring crew was shown putting the cage together backstage, IQG asked Sting about Tito, and Sting rambling for a moment about not knowing what Tito was going to do, but he was going to be an asset no matter where he went. He said he thought it would work, and Tito actually joined him momentarily as they got a commercial break. One commercial later, Anderson walked backstage and Ray said, "That went well." Anderson took offense and asked if Bully could do better. They argued back and forth as Ray asked if his crew was behind him. Anderson screamed that was all that they were trying to do was help him. He said they weren't his enemies. Ray said maybe. Be sure didn't feel like allies. Bully makes his ring entrance as Tenay wondered whether he was afraid that he couldn't beat Sabin. As they go to commercial. Solid promo work for Anderson and Ray as it put some more good heat on the match going forward. Most people, including me, have inked in Ray for a win, so they needed to create some doubt. By the way, the storm field seems to be getting worse. Just for your info, as it was raining, thunderstorming while I was at work, so that's why I was messing up. By the time I made it home, it was clear. Sabin made his entrance and Jamie Juarez had old school ring entrances. Match number 4, Bully Ray versus Chris Sabin in a cage match for the TNA Heavyweight Championship. Sabin started fast and hits a drop kick on a seated Bully in the corner. Bully tried to throw him onto the cage, but Sabin landed on the top rope and hit a crossbody for a 1 count. He climbed up the rope again and Ray caught him with a gorilla press slam into the cage. Ray continued to gorilla press slam Sabin into the cage and dared Sabin to hit him. Sabin threw a couple of punches, but Ray headbutted him and hit an elbow drop for a 2 count. Ray continued to methodically take Sabin apart until he went for a powerbomb and Sabin flipped over in a sleeper hold and gorilla press slammed Sabin into the cage. As they go to commercial, Ray continued to gorilla press slam Sabin into the cage and then dared Sabin to hit him again. Sabin threw a couple of punches. Again. I think I reread it. Well, Sabin started his comeback and hit an attitude adjustment after ripping Ray's cut off. He whipped Ray with his own cut and played to the fans. He started to charge at Ray in the corner, but Ray hit a big boot for a 2 count. Ray hit Sabin with the cut and tried to escape, but climbing out of the cage, Sabin caught him and they fought on the top. Sabin went for a Hurricanrana, but they botched it and Ray laid it on his face, but sold his left arm. Sabin went for his finisher, but Ray reversed it into a suplex. Ray had the ref open the door and tried to leave, but Sabin stopped him. They fought around the door and Ray lifted Sabin. Sabin accidentally kicked the ref, and then Ray accidentally smashed the ref into the cage. Sabin took out Bully with a mental drop kick and covered, but the ref was completely out. Sabin tried to leave the cage, but Anderson ran down and slammed the door in his face. He yelled, "You may not pass!" to Sabin, who tried to kick the door open. Rampage and Tito ran out, and Rampage dumped Anderson to the floor. Tito pulled out the hammer and hit Rampage. As you swerved, Sabin looked on confused while Bully Ray recovered and hit Bully Bomb for the pinfall victory. And Ray, Anderson, and Tito celebrated to close the show inside the cage. So Bully Ray won the TNA World Championship again by pinfall over Chris Sabin in 18 minutes and 3 seconds. Another good match with a lame and predictable finish. I don't even mind Tito turning, but as much as I'm irritated by the fact that TNA has to overbook everything, their 3 out of the 4 matches tonight ended with the interferences. It starts to lose its effectiveness after a while. It's tough to watch them put on a good show. That could have been great if they just wouldn't overbook everything. Sometimes less really is more. Still, this was a good episode of Impact, and Ray winning was the right call here. I guess Sabin will get a rematch, but TNA likes to screw babyfaces out of their rematches, so maybe not. I'm not sure what they will do with him from here, but hopefully they have a plan. I'll also repeat my concern for TNA as it relates to the MMA guys. Turning Tito on Rampage as a part of the hype for their November match could blow up in Bellator's face, and I'm terrified with the shit finishes rolling downhill. TNA gets the blame. It's certainly a gamble on their part. And now for the spoilers for next week. The show started off with an in-ring promo from Ego. That's Bobby Roode and Bad Influence. Where they tried to get Austin Aries to join them. This led into Gunner and Storm challenging for the tag title. And get that first match. James Storm and Gunner defeated Bobby Roode and Kazarian. The tag champs won after Aries came out and brainbusted one of the heels in a very good solid match. Match number 2, X-Division champion Manic defeated Sanjay Dutt. An okay match with some nice spots. Your typical X-Division match there. Match number 3, ODB defeated Gail Kim. ODB went over in another okay match. Match number 4, Joseph Park defeated Christopher Daniels, Hernandez, and Jay Bradley in a 4-way street fight to earn 20 points for the Bound for Glory series. Joseph won after transforming at the sight of his own blood and chokeslammed Bradley, then hit the Black Hole Slam. A good match up to the finish. If there is blood in a match in Virginia, then the match has to end because blading is strictly prohibited. From where the reporter was sitting, I didn't see any blood from the forehead of Park, but he was looking at his hand before he transformed, so maybe there was something to that. Secondly, I believe that the reason for the explosion match of Park versus Bradley was to retape the finish to the street fight, as Bradley severely messed both moves up. So if you see a lot of close-ups during that finish, then the reporter was right. When Bully Ray came out for his title celebration, he got some good heat with Tito Ortiz and then said it was time to tell the world the truth. He introduces Brooke. Well, not Brooke Hogan. It's Brooke Hogan's music played for a moment, but it's none other than Brooke Tessmacher walking out, who joins Aces and Eights, looking super hot with some high heels on. They kissed in the middle of the ring and then they left. Match number 5, Main Event Mafia defeated Aces and Eights in a 10-man tag with Devon losing and being eliminated from the company. The Mafia came out, Downey Man and Anderson pointed this out. He invited Bully to come watch, and he did a long test marker, so the reporter was happy. No one knew who the 5th man was. AJ Styles music hit, and he walked out onto the ramp in full emo mode. He got to the end of the ramp, stood there, and then his old music hit, and the place went wild. A fairly decent match took place, and Devon took the pinfall after the match once the fans realized he was leaving, and they gave Devon a pretty decent send-off, and he seemed fairly taken aback by it. All in all, a fun night of TNA action. And that concludes my report with spoilers for TNA Impact for this week. Thanks again. Peace out.